I really do feel like a lot of times, um, if I think about my personally, my mom, I don't even know if it was that she was um, trying to assume the fatherly role
Mhm.
with, at the latter part of my upbringing, raising us on her own. I don't know if she was trying to assume the fatherly role. I think that my mom just was in, like, she was, it's hard for me to say naturally this way, but she just
Mhm.
kind of grew up with this tough exterior. My mom
Sure.
had five, it was 12 of them. She had five sisters, six brothers, right? They
Wow.
lost their mom when I think my mom was like 9 years old, straight into foster care, being passed around through foster care. So she didn't have an experience of a true maternal figure, somebody who really cared,
Mm.
who
Gotcha.
expressed empathy to her, who gave her that emotional connectedness. So, in a sense, my mom was already growing up emotionally immature and with deficits in that area. So she didn't have it to give. All she knew was to fight. All she knew was to survive. You know what I mean? And to just make
Right,
it work.
right.
So, when I look at it in that perspective, I think that my mom parented based off of what she had, which is not necessarily a bad thing. Was it the healthiest? Probably not. Was it the most effective as far as, when my siblings and I became adults? No, because we're having to do our own work now to heal from certain things or whatever the case.
Correct, correct.
It's okay too, right?
Right.
Because you have to get to that point where you just, take accountability for yourself and you do your work. Um, so, there's a lot of just trauma that was experienced all throughout that experience, but just understanding where it all comes from does help, right? I
Mhm.
understand that my mom didn't have she didn't have an experience with motherly women. And so she's only, showing and mimicking and modeling and giving what she was given to give. And
Right.
so, that's, really where it comes from for her. But I see other single moms as well, just from, from other experiences of like within my family or, people I get an opportunity to work with. And a lot of times I see mothers parenting their sons based off of their ideas of what men should be,
Right,
which is a
absolutely.
different issue.
No, absolutely. What I think is interesting also when you're talking about how to sort of manage what you've experienced when you were growing up and then doing the deeper dive, right? Which I imagine maybe you did in grad school, maybe you did it before and after, trying to analyze what your parents went through, why they maybe did some of the things they did, maybe why they didn't do some of the things that they did, and how to put all that together,
Mhm.
right? I had a very similar experience. I thought a lot about like when you were talking earlier. I think in our community it's sort of interesting. I'll pivot just for a moment. When we talk about things like discipline or consequences or punishment, right? I think a lot of us we kind of laugh about, and I'll speak for myself, physical abuse.
Mhm.
Now I'm not going to say every black parent does this because I don't want to. I don't think that that's true. We're not a monolith. But I'll speak for my father. My father went through a lot of traumatic experiences. He lost obviously his wife. He lost his mother in the same month. So I think he went through a lot of his own trauma that he never really dealt with for a long time.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of his experience was to sort of take that out on. I have an older sister as well. I think he took a lot of that out on me and my sister as his way to cope, which is
Mhm.
of course unhealthy because we got abused physically.
Yeah.
And so trying to understand that, right? So there's moments where it's kind of like laughing at the trauma. I think a lot of us,
Mhm.
like, I don't know if you listen to a lot of black comedians, but
Yeah.
I think we all kind of talk about that type of experience and we laugh. And it's kind of funny now thinking about the things we might have got in trouble for.
Right.
But then when you think about it sort of from a clinical perspective, you're like, yeah, but that wasn't necessarily the right example of how
Right.
to conduct oneself. So
Yeah.
then thinking about the next generation, if you have children and I have a child, how do you remedy those situations? And so, and trying to, raise the bar, raise the standard, if you will, so we don't continue to perpetuate this level of trauma
Mhm.
onto the next generation that then has to go back and do all the work that we've had to do and continue to do
For sure.
to move on from these different challenges, right?